A série The Chosen já estreou aqui no Brasil e a terceira temporada já está disponível nos cinemas brasileiros. O Aventuras na História conversou com o diretor da série, Dallas Jenkins. Confira a entrevista.
So, hi Dallas.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having us, for having me. I'm so honored to be talking to you. I'm a huge fan of The Chosen.
Oh, good.
And I just want to know, how is it for you to know that you have so many fans? The show has so many fans here in Brazil, and it is big as it is in the States.
Yeah, I have been amazed by the growth of The Chosen in Brazil. We saw it early on when we first made the show and we first started releasing it. It was in English, and all our social media is in English. So I didn't expect it, at least right away, to catch on in other countries initially. But we saw very quickly that we were seeing so many comments on our social media from Brazil. And especially when we made the show free in 2020, when we decided to make the show free, we noticed that obviously our biggest audience was in the United States, but Brazil was just growing so fast, and I kept seeing obrigado, obrigado.
Yeah, and come to Brazil.
Yes. So many people were saying, come to Brazil, come to Brazil.
Yeah.
And so this is my first time in Brazil, so it's so wonderful to be here. But we have always thought, boy, something is happening in Brazil with The Chosen, and we love our team that is here, and we love my Brazilian brothers and sisters. And and today I received the Brazilian national football team jersey.
Yeah.
So they are my second favorite
Awesome.
football team in the world. Yes.
That's great.
It's been wonderful.
You always say that The Chosen is not only for Christians to watch and believers. So what does The Chosen has to bring to the table, and why is it for everybody?
Yeah. Well, whether you believe that Jesus was the Son of God or not, everyone agrees Jesus was here and he was a very influential figure. So I watched the movie Gandhi. I don't worship Gandhi, but I still love the movie. I watched Schindler's List. I'm not Jewish, but I still love the story. Not everyone has to believe that Jesus was the Son of God to appreciate the historical drama of The Chosen and to appreciate, hopefully, that the show accurately captures the culture of the time, the history, and yes, the Bible truth of the stories. But I know that not everyone, including some of our cast and crew, in fact, many of our cast and crew are not believers in Jesus, but they love the show, and their friends love the show, and we've had a big audience around the world of people who aren't believers, but who love seeing these stories told accurately and hopefully told well.
Awesome. And Jesus and Judas, everybody knows them. And I wanted, because in the third season of The Chosen, we see more of that relationship, right? So how did you make Judas to be relatable? Because we don't like Judas from the Bible, but everybody loves Judas from The Chosen.
Yes.
How is that?
Well, you know that Judas followed Jesus for several years before he betrayed him. So the disciples did not know that Judas would betray Jesus. And so, and Judas followed Jesus. He did miracles. He clearly, I believe, believed in Jesus, at least at first. So we have to show Judas to the audience the way that the disciples saw Judas and the way that Jesus' followers saw Judas. He had to be likable. He had to be what felt like a normal person when they first met him. We knew it was difficult because the moment that we introduce Judas to the audience, they immediately know what he's going to do. So we had to find a way to introduce him in a way that felt normal, like he was a normal person. And the actor who plays him, Luke Dimian, is a wonderful actor and has portrayed Judas as a very likable character. And some of the audience is like, oh, I don't want to like Judas. But in season 3, you see how he started in the ministry of Jesus. We just finished filming season 4. That's where you will see Judas starting to change a little bit. But it's a unique challenge because you get to show someone over the course of time how they changed and what would have caused them to turn away from Jesus. Yeah. And that's not an opportunity you normally get in Bible shows or in a Jesus show. Typically it's just Judas betrayed him and we don't know why. We don't know what led up to him. We didn't get to know Judas. And I think for a lot of the audience, they can go, I can relate to Judas. Yeah. And maybe we can avoid the same mistakes.
Yeah, I love him. So, not that Judas from the Bible, but
yes.
Your story in the making of the show, and your testimony is so beautiful. And you impact so many people, inspire people to not only have a connection with love, hope, but also to write their own stories. In fact, I remember watching a video of you telling your testimony with The Chosen, and I cried my eyes out because I was so impacted, and I decided actually to give a chance to my first short film.
Oh, wow.
So when you look to The Chosen and its impact on everybody, do you see your story and the impact of your own story in the storyteller's story, so
Yes.
they feel inspired?
Yes, when we first started the show, my partner said, we should tell your story too, and tell it on social media, and so that people can know you and trust you. Because when we're telling the story of Jesus, many of the audience around the world is wanting to make sure that we get it right, and they need to trust me. And so I've been very honest about my story. And The Chosen was born from failure. My movie that I made, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, totally failed. I didn't know if I was ever going to get a chance to make another movie or TV show. And I was ready to quit my career. And that's when I think God said, okay, now you're ready for The Chosen. Because I was willing to surrender. And so I think that people hearing that story and knowing that I have gone through many of the things that the characters in the show have gone through, and that I have learned many of the lessons that the show is teaching, I think makes the show more authentic to them. And I think that the audience can trust it a little bit more, perhaps knowing me a little better.
That's true. I can tell. So things are getting bigger on The Chosen, like the miracles, everything is getting, like the production. What can we expect, like the fans can expect for the 4th season?
Well, season 3 is coming out in theaters first, and so they're going to see the fact that I've told people the theme of season 3 is "Come to me, you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." And we see a lot of the disciples and followers feeling tired and feeling sad and feeling heavy laden, but Jesus gives rest. In season 4, we see that Jesus is weary and heavy laden too. Wow. As we get closer and closer to Holy Week, closer and closer to the time where we know Jesus is ultimately going to be betrayed and ultimately arrested, we start to see his sadness at the fact that the disciples aren't understanding his mission fully. His sadness that the religious leaders are against him, that the city of Jerusalem does not know that the Messiah is here. And so what happens when you see Jesus needing comfort? That Jesus can be sad too, and that his friends, his best friends, don't fully understand it. It can be very lonely. And so we see some of that. And so I think season 4, many of the audience members, even though the show is getting bigger, will see more intimately just what Jesus was like at times and felt the same things that they feel. And that's something that people don't always understand, is yet Jesus went through a lot of the same things we went through. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in season 4.
That's awesome. So why should people come and watch The Chosen in the theaters here in Brazil?
Yeah, so when people saw it on the big screen, number one, it was just more engaging to watch on the big screen. The sound, the picture, there's nothing that can replace watching it in a theater. There's also something special about watching it with other fans. And so when you watch it at home, yes, you can have your own personal experience, but when you're watching it with an audience, there's a lot of humor in episodes 1 and 2, so laughing with an audience, also crying with an audience, can feel very powerful. And so I think there's a very much a community, family aspect to watching it in a theater. And so when we released it in the States in theaters, the audience was even more excited and more passionate after watching it than they normally are.
Awesome. Thank you so much for The Chosen, and thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me.